Welcome guys, welcome to Life in the Peloton, presented by MAP, and I'm your host, Mitch Docker. Well, it's that time of year again, MAP's Equinox Experience. 2 times a year, when for a brief moment, cyclists worldwide share equal light and go on an endurance adventure to chase 12 hours of light. I'm going to be getting involved again as well, and I'm going to be following Victoria's longest rail trail from the MAP Lab in Melbourne City, cutting out and then all the way down to Port Albert in Gippsland. Gravel, tracks, paths, and everything in between. A real adventure. And it's really what I'm craving when I go riding. So guys, head across to map.cc/equinox to see where there is a ride near you, or create your own ride and let us know about your Equinox experience. Well, on that note, that brings me to our episode this week. An absolute cracker too, an absolute bikepacking adventure. Earlier this year, I had a message from a Kiwi guy called Homona Nyata telling me about this amazing area to go riding, the East Coast, in the south of the North Island in New Zealand. He said he'd been chatting with Tirawati, which is the tourism from Gisborne, and they were looking for some riders to come over and ride around the area, around the East Cape, loosely following the infamous 35 highway. So essentially fly in and ride 35. Look, my answer was short. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do this. It sounded sick. Remote coast around the East Cape, the first place that sees the light in the world, a not overly common route, and so much to explore and so much culture to learn. This area, as I know now, is really remote, raw and refreshing. It's back to basics. Really, there are a lot of Indigenous Māori people living out there, still living and respecting the land just as their ancestors once did. This is a total adventure ride, and I just couldn't turn it down. And the more and more I learn about it, the more I just wanted to get over and ride it. And then to be invited to ride with Homona, a Māori himself, and then another fellow Kiwi, a guy called Lester. What a better way to experience this trip. Well, just before we get to this episode, as you've heard, I've signed up to the Join Cycling AI training app. And I can hear you all saying, what? Why? What are you talking about? Well, firstly, Join is a training app that is fully adaptive. So when I was over in New Zealand the other week, when I had time to actually crank out some riding, Join simply adjusted my program. So once I got home, it had changed it to suit the load I'd taken on. And look, the main reason why I'm trying and using Join is to help me get more motivated and a little bit of structure around my riding again as we're moving into the gravel season here in Australia. Lots of gravel races happening, and the Beechworth Granite Classic is just around the corner. So the best part is you can add events and goals to the app. That's what I love about it. And it programs it in right up and gets you ready for your next event. And let's be honest, we all have commitments that come up. So it's fully adaptive program, I think, is its best feature. Because look, we all get great intentions at the start of the week. You know, this happens, that happens. Oh, suddenly it's raining the next day, blah, blah, blah. But Join is able to move things around and adapt to the program for you, your program, how you live your life. Try it out. There's nothing to lose. 1 month free trial when you sign up through join.cc/LITP. That's join.cc/LITP. Well, guys, here we go. Sit back. This is a big one, about 550 kilometers over 5 days, heading out of Gisborne and following the 35, the coast, right around and back to Gizzy. Not overly taxing ride, but just a few mates cruising around, meeting people, and of course, enjoying a few cleansing ales each night after the ride. Saddle up, guys. Let's go on the adventure. Here we go. Well, it's Friday morning. Just dropped the kids to school. I'm sitting here in the car with my wife, Liddy. Liddy, we're on our way, aren't we?
We're on our way. Yep.
Once again, I thought, well, I guess we both sort of thought this epic travel would have, I guess, ended when we came back from Girona. But there is still a few trips, and this year particularly has been really busy. Headed over to Tour Down Under. Then straight off the back of that, I was up in Bright last week. It was fantastic to do a tour up there. And now heading over to New Zealand, it's been a place I've really wanted to explore, by bike. And last year I was lucky enough to go across and do a mountain bike event down in the South Island in Nelson, the New Zealand mountain bike rally, which was crazy and something that I never thought I ever would have done. But this time I've been invited across by Tourism Gisborne, and that is up in the North Island, just south of Auckland, to go and explore some uncharted territories. A lot of people have been riding around there, but it's not as well known to everyone, I guess. And so they say, hey Mitch, come across and check it out. So here we are on the way. I'm really excited, but Liddy, what's the reality? I'm off again.
It's come around a bit too quick, this one. Only, I think, one full day at home. But yeah, it's always hard when you go away. I think an exciting opportunity and looking forward to hearing some stories.
Well, that's where your dad is from, so you are part Kiwi, and I'm going back and I guess exploring some of the areas that you haven't really got to explore. You've been there a few times. We went there together in our early days, so it's going to bring back some of those nice memories from there.
Yeah, for sure.
Attention please. This is a final boarding call for all customers on Air New Zealand Flight 124 to Auckland. Please proceed to Gate 4 for immediate boarding.
Thank you.
Beautiful, thanks. Well, here we go. Time to rock and roll.
A special welcome back to other all the appointed customers. For those of you who have come all the way from the Philippines today, please note that my nickname is Waterfalls. Please say that, Waterfalls.
Well, we're sitting here on the plane, just heading over now, the final stretch to Gisborne. I'm sitting next to Carla, a local. Carla?
Kia ora, Mitch. How are you?
Kia ora. Very good. This is exciting. Like, this is a whole new experience for me because on a little plane. I've been on a little plane before, but it really makes me feel... You were looking out at the engine. You're a bit worried, weren't you?
Oh, I was. I've watched too many Indiana Jones movies, and I was just thinking it was going to catch on fire.
I was
Really
just
good.
I was just explaining our trip. Like, I'm sort of piecing it together because I'm landing in Gisborne, and then we're cutting across to the coast. Tell me about what I'm going to get to go through there and some of the little regions that we're just chatting about it now.
Absolutely. You're going through some really significant places for the history of Gisborne and for our people, for Māori people. But, you know, like the trek that you're doing goes through farmlands, then goes through remote places which are historically important, where in the day our people would trek through the bush with horses and carts. You know, we didn't have cars or anything in the day, and that was how people used to get food and medical assistance, you know, from Gisborne all the way through to towns like Opoti, which you're going to. And then you're going to then go down the coast to a place called Te Kaha, which is famous for beautiful, because it's very rich, fertile around those areas. So we've got lots of kiwi plantations, or I don't know if the word's plantations, and all along that coast, that area is called the Bay of Plenty. And the reason it was called that is because it had plenty of food, plenty of fish, plenty of what we call kaimoana, like crayfish, kina, pawa, you know, all those wonderful things that Māori and New Zealanders love. That area that you're going to be trekking in is called Bay of Plenty, and then you come through to town Gisborne. We call it Tūranga Nuia Kiwa, which is called the standing place of Kiwa, who was one of the first to come on our waka, which is Horeita waka, to migrate to New Zealand. So it's a whole historical thing and importance for us.
And from what I understand, like it's a place of, like you said, wealth and in terms of like wealth of food and natural resources.
Yes.
But it's not overly populated, is it? It's still very remote. So is it still traditional?
Absolutely, there's lots of. We do have a town, Gisborne, Tūranga Nuia Kiwa is I guess the main town in our area, and then it has little pockets of. I guess country towns or rural towns, and some of them are small, very small. You could blink and then it's gone. But they have lots of communities that are scattered and sprinkled across that region, and we call them hapu or tribes, and they're all very proud of their own little tribes and have their own little unique ways and histories about them. But they're very lovely people around those areas. So you also get to see a lot of sheep and cows and horses.
Well, tell me about the town that you grew up. Well, I'm going to get to ride through. I think it's probably on about day or 2 or 3.
Yes.
But is it pretty small? Is there many people there? What was it like growing up there?
Oh, well, I was born in Gisborne, and we grew up there in Gisborne like years ago. It was a very, I would say, just bicultural when I grew up, but now it's quite a multicultural region. But we then moved, and my mum comes from a town called Raukokore Waihope, which you'll be going through, and it's a fishing community. Like I said to you, lots of kaimoana, lots of deep sea fishing, catching marlin, snapper. It's very popular. It's a real tourist destination, and you'll actually drive past the church, which is a well-known Anglican church, where my family were all baptised. My mum got married in there. I got married in there. And lots of our traditional houses are called marae, and that that belongs to a particular whānau and stuff like that. So you'll really love it, and the people there are just really friendly. And there's a tavern there which you'll love. It's called Waihope Tavern. Best fish and chips, better than Aussies.
Well, I'm going to bookmark that straight in.
Bookmark that fish and chips. I'll tell you, it's the best because it's fresh.
What are some tips that I need to know with the locals? What about speaking to the locals, or the way I should act around the locals? What do they like, having a cold beer, a bit of a laugh?
Absolutely. Kiwis and Aussies we all like to drink and yarn and have a conversation, but the fact that you're Aussie and you tell them, you're going to get a lot of jokes thrown your way. But we say kia ora, you fellas say g'day mate.
Yeah.
And just like what we did today, just having a chat and a yarn about stuff. So it's similar, and that's what I lived in Sydney, and I lived travelled around Aussie, so that connection is really it's just easy. I think you'll be fine.
What about riding around? I've just sort of roughly described the loop. I'm still working the loop out myself. I've got to land and then meet my my fellow crew that we're riding with and find out exactly what we're doing. But what do you think about riding around the area? Maybe not a cyclist yourself, but maybe you've ridden a bike here and there. What do you think about actually cycling through the area? Can you imagine that?
I could imagine you doing it, but not me. But I think it's actually a really awesome thing. Yeah. I think you'll get to see a lot about the beauty of our area, but also some of because we went through natural disaster not long ago with the cyclone, and so you'll see the effects that has on the land, on the roads. But lots of repairs have happened, and people, roads were blocked off. People couldn't get through to town and things like that. So you'll see a lot of that along the way, which is great because it's opening up the roads now for people to come through. And I just think it'll be really diverse, some of the stuff you'll see, because each town is different. And at each stage you'll see, lots and lots of beautiful sceneries, beautiful beaches, which is unlike what they have in Australia. They've got beautiful beaches, and now is a lot of remote places where you'll be the only one on the beach, but that's not a bad thing, right?
No, not at all. No, I'm looking forward to it, and apparently a few good pubs around the backside as you get closer to Gisborne again. Oh yeah, we've got a few. Do stop off at Tukumaru Bay. They've got a tavern there, which is really lovely. A lot of locals go there, so you'll like those. I was going to mention also stop off at Cafe 35, because I know Aussies think they have the best pies, but you've never tasted the pao pie. Pao pie? What is that? Just there's not sea urchins. Abalone. Yeah, abalone. Sorry. Yeah, right. So that's the go-to. Yeah, absolutely delicious. And when you eat it, you'll realise that yes, New Zealand does have the best pies. All right, abalone pie. I've got it. Cafe 35. We've touched down. We're here. We are here in Tūranganuiakiwa, no mai, haramai mitu, to the beautiful town of my ancestors, Tūranganuiakiwa. I'm looking forward to it. It's been great chatting to you along the way. Oh, and you too. I wish you all the best in your adventures in Te Tairāwhiti, which is the East Coast and which is the area in which you're going to be travelling around and see the beauty, but don't forget me. Well, we're here. This is it. I've landed and met at the airport with a big sign and streamers and everything. Hamona Nagata. No, that's not right, is it? How do you say it?
Ngata.
I wasn't even close at all.
Yeah, Ngata. Yeah.
Good to be here. Thank you. What have we got in front of me? How's this all come about?
Yeah, well, no mai, haere mai ki te whare tūnei o Tairāwhiti, Mitch. That's a little bit of Māori for you. Welcome to Tairāwhiti. Long story short, long-time listener, first-time caller. Listened to the pod since, I think, probably day one, I'd say. And yeah, this all came about through like a Gisborne Tourism kind of thing. And they came to me and they were kind of like, hey, we want to like do like a little bit of a gravel mission, a gravel project to highlight all the awesome riding in this area. One thing led to another, a little light bulb moment. I was like, I wonder if old Mitch Docker would be keen to come over and have a ride. And one thing led to another, and here we are.
Oh, yeah. And like, that's music to my ears because you didn't know, but in the back of my mind, I've been trying to plan like an epic gravel adventure here. I looked into doing the north to the south or whatever that one-way route is. What is that one that everyone does?
Tour of Aotearoa. So that's from Kaitaia, very top of the North Island, all the way down to the bottom of Te Waipounamu, which is the South Island, to Bluff. So that's, I think most people do it in around about kind of 2-3 weeks. Some mad dogs do it in 5 days. So that's the big main one that people do. But again, there's rides on basically throughout the whole island that a lot of people kind of skip over because they just go straight to the Queenstowns, the kind of, the Wanakas and Nelsons and stuff. But yeah, we got some good riding, and here on the East Coast, Tairāwhiti, it's pretty good. So,
well, that's the thing. Like they sound great, but they didn't really fit to where I am in my life at the moment. I'm all about riding, sure, get a few Ks under the belt, but a bit more of a cruisier pace, a bit more chance to sort of check out what's going on, and of course, crack a cold one and have a cleansing ale each night. And I think that's what we're sort of putting together here, a chance to really look at this area. It's pretty remote from what I understand. I'm excited, mate. First night here. Maybe we can get a little cheeky in before we hit the hay tonight.
24/7, 365. I think, when we're riding, you got to keep hydrated, you got to keep motivated and stuff. And I don't know about you, but ice coldie at the end of like a 120k ride sounds pretty good to me, brother.
Kia ora, Hamana. Day one, where are we off to?
Day one, Mitch, we're bouncing out from Gisborne Airport and we're boosting up to the New Zealand National Arboretum, Eastwoodhill Arboretum. From there, we're going to bounce along a bit of stretch of gravel up to Matawai, and then from Matawai to Motu.
Well, pretty chilled night last night. Hamona dropped me in at the motel, and I unpacked the bike and got the whole bike geared up, ready for my first bikepacking trip in a long, long time. Now it's early. We're meeting at the Zest Cafe, which I'm trying to find now as I roll through a sleepy Gisborne this morning at 6:30, which is 4:30 Aussie time. So that was a bit of a rude awakening. To meet the rest of the crew before we head out on this adventure. Of course, get a brew into the system. Very necessary, but it's a beautiful day. Lovely day. It's a bit overcast, but it's warm. And I've got this this sort of excitement. Like whenever you're in a new place, it's like, cool, here we go. Well, we're down here at the cafe, Zest Cafe, and as I said before on the way down, a sleepy old town, but it's come alive. There's probably about 30 moto guys here. Our crew's here, and Kim, hello.
Kia ora, how are you?
I'm really well. Kim's here. She's come down to meet us for a coffee. The brains behind this mission. Where are we going? What's the idea?
So the whole idea is the concept of fly into Gisborne and tune out. So bring your bike, pack your bags, put your bike together at the airport, and do a mission of Tairāwhiti, which is on the east coast of the North Island. So however long you want to take 5 days, take 4, 3, you can stay in accommodation along the way or tent, but just a full immersion into the east coast of the North Island.
And you're not expecting it to see the cafe this busy this morning, are you? This is a local spot for you?
Yeah, it's a great little spot, Zest Cafe in town here. There's 100 guys from Hawke's Bay, which is 3 hours south of Gisborne here. So they've been doing a bit of a similar kind of mission to what we're doing, but more inland versus coastal. Whereas we'll be hugging the coastline the whole way around the east coast. They've been kind of going over stations and farms and having a few beers at different taverns along the way. So, which we will definitely aim to do too.
What are some things I'm going to get look forward to, especially in these early days on the bike? You know, landscape-wise, what are some things we're going to cross across?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We kind of start by heading inland, so up kind of rural, farmy, lots of, just basic backcountry farms, onto some gravel. Then we kind of pop over a big ridge and we pop into like a little town called Matawai, which is kind of a little halfway point if you're driving to Gisborne. And then we pop into a tiny little settlement called Motu. We then again go up, big climb, down a grade 4 mountain bike track, and then we pop onto the coast. So we're kind of going from really kind of rural New Zealand to beautiful coastline New Zealand. We'll then hug the coast around all these small little settlements that are just beautiful in their own kind of way and quiet, peaceful. Some would say like a place that time hasn't caught up to, but which is also has its own beauty. So
I like a few things I heard there. A bit of a climb, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but that means we get to go down a little trail. Did I hear a little mountain bike trail there too? That'll be fun.
Yeah, the Pākehī track is part of New Zealand Great Rides, and it's about 17 k's down. There's a few climbs depending on what way you go. Probably for someone like yourself, not that pinchy, but when I did it a year ago, it was tough. It was steep going for a couple of hours climb, but beautiful track, starts off kind of tight. Medium, grade 3, 4. Just stay right, bit of a left-hand exposure going on. Then you kind of get to a hut, which is halfway. Then you drop and have about 14, 15 river crossings, which is just beautiful. You're in this little kind of valley and you just kind of hug the river the whole way through. And then you pop out into this little clearing at the end and cruise into a portakey.
Oh my gosh, it's set it up. It's going to be a good day. The weather's looking nice. It's breaking up now. The clouds is a bit overcast. But we've got the rest of our crew here. We met Hamona last night in the car before we had a couple cleansers. Lester Perry, welcome.
Mitch, I say welcome to you. Welcome to New Zealand, mate.
It's great to be here. I'm loving all the different accents. And so far, as I thought, my last time I was here, loving interacting with everyone because everyone's so damn nice. So it's been a good interaction so far. You ready for the mission?
I think so, yeah. We packed the bags. I woke up early this morning on Kim's recommendation to go and see the Gisborne East Coast sunrise, but it was foiled by a little bit of cloud today. So, looking forward to getting on the bike. It's always good to like roll out of the motel and start riding, ride here for breakfast and catch up with the crew. It's good.
The full stitch up by Kim. She saw the weather and she's just like, let's get him up early. He needs to get up. Make sure he doesn't go out last night.
Exactly. Actually, I was saying to Hamona, this is the first morning in years that I had the big freak out that I missed my alarm and freaked out, woke up, and then I was like, oh, no, we're good. I was picturing myself rolling in here, being the last guy on scene.
Yeah, have you been doing some Ks in preparation for this, or are you just like, you know what, I'll deal with it when I get out there?
It's a little bit of both. I'm always riding, but we're not doing huge days. That's the beauty, I guess, of this route, is you don't have to be probably the fittest person. It's kind of accessible to everybody, and I don't know. I grew up not too far from here, and I've never been to Gisborne before, so good to explore the area and see what it's all about. Looking forward to it.
Just quickly, I'm sure we'll get into a bit later on. What have you got on the bike? I'm looking across your bike. Looks pretty packed, but in comparative to mine, Hamona's bought the whole house, which is great to know when he's going up the climb. His bike's got bags everywhere. I'm halfway in between, and then you look like you've gone pretty lightweight. I'm a bit nervous about it, and apparently you've been training as well.
Yeah, so I think I'm talking to H about his setup. I think I've gone too lightweight. I'm pretty much running a pair of jandals, or a bit of translation, the thongs for you guys, and a one change of clothes, very lightweight. So if the weather really tanks on us, I could be asking for some clothes.
I wasn't sure it was so lightweight that you just went thongs and thong.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, there's a secret for later on.
All right, let's get a bit of brekkie and we'll head out. All right, H, we've got the map out. Visually, well, I'm going to put the map in the show notes so people can follow this themselves. But we're here in Gizzy. Just before we take off, run us through where we're going, what we're going to see.
Yeah, man. So we're starting right here in Turanga Airport, so Gisborne Airport. From here, we're going to bump out and head up towards Rere, which is like a kind of rural area. We'll stop at the New Zealand National Arboretum, which is like, basically it's like a vault of seeds from around the world. So it's the biggest vault like that in Australasia. You'll see it. It's amazing. From there, we're going to bump up to Matawai. So there's some gravel riding, on-road riding up there. Matawai, we're going to go to Motu, and we're staying the night in Motu at Motu Community House, which is going to be awesome. And then tomorrow, we're going
How many K is that?
I think
Stage one.
Stage one, maybe 100, 110, depending, but we'll be meandering because there's so much nice scenery to see. So that'll be stage one. Stage two, Jim from Motu Trails, which is like the trails that we're going to be riding. He's going to be meeting us there and taking us through the Pākehī track, which is going to be beautiful and scenic and amazing.
Is that sort of like what, walking track size or single track? What sort of style we're looking at?
A bit of both. It's at grade 4, but it's not a grade 4, if you know what I mean. It's dangerous because there's drops. It's not so much dangerous because it's rooty and there's like actual mountain bike style drops. There's like
as in like the left hand side, don't go off the left type thing.
Yeah, that's the one. So it's graded at grade 4 just for that sort of thing. But it's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful up there. And then we're into a Portaki, the Dunes Trails, which is like a recently done trail. I think it's like a grade 1, super flat, but super nice. A lot of conservation work done around there. So we'll be having a bit of a talk to the iwi there as well around the conservation efforts.
And then we're on the other side then. We're on to the Bay of Plenty. I heard about that, actually, the naming of that last night from Carla there, the Bay of Plenty, because this was, from what I understand, the land, there was great resources here, plenty. There was plenty of food, livestock for hunting, things like that.
Yeah, that's the one. So actually, we're here in Gisborne. Gisborne is the first place in New Zealand where Captain Cook actually came ashore. So New Zealand, in its infancy, was founded here. And yeah, Bay of Plenty, I'm pretty sure Cook named it around that. Lots of fishing, lots of hunting and all that kind of stuff. From Portaki, we'll bump up to Te Kaha. So we're on the road for this section up to Te Kaha, staying at like a big, massive resort there.
All on the coast, isn't it? Beautiful coast. So we've gone inland to get across to the other coast there, and then now we're cruising up the coast road.
Yep, that's right. We're talking like trees coming down to the ground. We might even see some whales and stuff like that.
Really?
Maybe, possibly. Some seals, all that kind of stuff out there. And then we head from Te Kaha up to Waiho Bay. So the lady who you talked to, I think her cousin is the film director Taika Waititi, right?
That's right. Yeah, she did mention that.
Yeah, so Waiho Bay, he's got a really famous movie called Boy. It was actually shot in and around there and based around like a lot of storytelling around Waiho Bay. Oh yeah, it's got right there on the map, location of the movie Boy. So we'll stop in there, maybe get an ice cream.
At the general store.
That's the one, brother, at the general store. And from there, we're going to bump over to Te Araroa. Now we're entering kind of the east coast where, we're into the land where the sun shines first in the whole wide world. So it's going to be pretty exciting to head over there.
And we're going to be going along the 35 highway. You reckon that's a pretty iconic, that sticker, that 35, I can see on this map here. Everyone loves that. That's the known sort of coastal road.
Yeah, that's right. We're entering the rohe, or the land of Ngāti Porou. So Ngāti Porou are the iwi that resides on this side of the coast. And yeah, State Highway 35, you'll see it on cars, you'll see it on T-shirts, you'll see it in shops. People are pretty hearty about it. It's called Ngāti Hearty. It's pretty funny. And so yeah, from there we're going to come down to Tiki Tiki. There's a really famous church there. We're going to have a bit of a kōrero or a talk there. And yeah, we're just going to keep bumping down.
And you mentioned the two tribes, the iwi tribes, like through the centre here. We're going right around the coast doing a big lap, but through the centre, is there any roads? What's through the middle there? Like it says the Umakara range there, the wilds. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, the Rokumura range. So yeah, that's deep, dark, out there wilderness, So a few little dirt roads here and there, hunting tracks, hunting ara, like ara is Māori for tracks all over that place. It's kind of untapped. So, I'm pretty keen to have a ride in there and have a bit of a fossick around, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's amazing in there. You'll see it. And we come down to Tokomaru Bay, and yeah, it's all along the coast, man. It's big, bright, beautiful, and the beaches are amazing. The people are even more amazing. And power pies. You're a bit of a pie man.
I am. I'm looking forward to. I heard about them last night. So
I think it's abalone.
Yes.
So abalone pies, but there's something that they put in them in Tokomaru Bay that they sell out constantly, consistently. I'm talking like, I don't know, a couple of 100 pies a day. So you'll be feasting on a couple of those in Tokomaru Bay.
Well, total trip, what are we looking at? We've got to get on the road. What are we looking at kilometre-wise?
Total around about maybe 500 maybe sort of thing, but we're going to be averaging, I don't know, 100 and something a day. We're here for the scenery, man. We're not here for the FKTs and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. That's a good amount a day to be able to stop off and check out these places, but still get some Ks in the legs. Should we hit the road?
That's us, brother.
All right, H. Well, we've rolled out. Headed out from the airport this morning, and I'll let you tell us about the way we've come. But there's been a bit of gravel, a bit of tracks, saw some sheep, of course. We're in New Zealand. We hit the first climb. I thought it'd be a good time to check in.
Yeah, well, here we are. We rolled out of Gisborne Airport down towards the Waipawa River, which is one of our major rivers here in Gizzy. And there's a good little 10K flat cycle trail along there that connects up to the Motu trail, which we're going to be riding and stuff. And yeah, we zipped along there, and now we're out the back of Patutahi and climbing towards Eastwoodhill Arboretum.
It's bloody nice out here. Like, it's just rolling hills wherever you look. It feels weird that we haven't hit one yet, but certainly hitting one now. Over the top of the hill, where we're going to roll into next, it's getting a bit more rural, isn't it?
Yeah, we're starting to get into kind of the middle of nowhere buzz, which is what people are after these days, I think, kind of get as remote as possible. And yeah, we're going to be stopping in at Eastwoodhill. It's an arboretum, trees of all kind from around the world, really, and they've got the biggest vault of seeds in the southern hemisphere, which is kind of cool.
Well, Garrett, we've pulled off the road here into, it seems like a bit of a sanctuary here. What's going on here?
Well, yeah, g'day Mitch. You're right, it is a little bit of a sanctuary. We are the biggest collection of Northern Hemisphere trees in the Southern Hemisphere. So we've got around 13,000 different trees, over 1,500 different species, and all within 165 hectare boundary.
It's an arboretum, is it? What's the word?
Yeah, so the term is arboretum. We're the National Arboretum of New Zealand, so we've got an active government that supports our governance and basically determines how we operate and how we function. So it's a really special place. We call it our little slice of paradise when we welcome visitors and guests alike. So yeah, fantastic place to call my office for want of a better word.
Well, as I rode in here, there's not just new trees around. I saw some gum trees. It was great. Made me feel like I was back home. I was just really missing home in the last 24 hours. Saw some Tasmanian gums, actually. But the trees are very big. They're tall. It seems like it's been around for a while. I saw a photo as I walked in of the land before the trees were here. It was just a block of sort of, I guess, farmed land and worked land, and then it got turned. What's the story about? How did it all come about?
So the way in which this place came about was through through one man's legacy. So our founder, Douglas Cook, was a very eccentric man, but his biggest fear was, if there was to be some kind of nuclear holocaust, what does that mean for the species of trees all over the world? So his vision really was to create that sanctuary that had a whole lot of different trees from all over the world, for some, to basically, if anything was to happen, he would have the chance, or the world would have the chance to repropagate any of these species. So, yeah, a vision, way back, then is you very seldom hear of that. But, for him to think the worst but plan for the best was, he was definitely ahead of his time.
When was that? Back in like 1940s, was it?
It would have been a little bit earlier, so around sort of 1920, 1925. So he actually was in World War One. He was medically discharged, and through that medical discharge, he actually spent a bit of time in the UK, healing from his battle injuries. And it was at that point that he started to fall in love with trees. So, all of the old English oaks, and as you can see, we have a range of different oaks. And, it was then that he started thinking, if things don't, go a wee bit south, how do we make sure that the world can protect and conserve, a whole lot of different tree species? And I think that's where the largest collection of northern hemisphere trees and the southern hemisphere come from, because of his time spent in the UK and obviously doing a lot of research around that time to identify some of the trees that he thought would be fantastic.
It's awesome, and the vision then, and to think not only for himself as a really unselfish sort of thought, but yet in a way looking after himself, because he got to live in this area and hang around this area. You can already feel it. We spoke about on the way up here. The boys were saying you're going to notice the air quality in here, and it's whether it's psychological or whether it's real, but it's just the atmosphere. We're just surrounded by these trees, and you can hear the animals and the different insects in the trees. It's quite amazing being up here. I guess on a day-to-day basis, as you said, it's a bit of a sanctuary. Who are the people who come to visit here, and what can you actually do in here?
I mean, it's a really good question. So we quite often joke that Eastwoodhill has its own ecosystem, when we talk about the weather, in town, it can be raining, awful weather, but if as soon as we get out here, it's beautiful.
Really?
Yeah. It's a really, really strange but fascinating dynamic in the sense that it kind of, has its own little ecosystem. So that's why you'll feel the air being a lot more, pure and just, it's a completely different vibe being involved, being out in such a beautiful place.
It's been a perfect little pit stop here. I don't even feel like getting back on the bike. I'm only halfway through my day. Yeah. So thanks very much, Gareth.
No worries. Thank you, mate. Appreciate you guys making the trek here, and, hopefully we can get more people on their bikes out to Eastwoodhill to enjoy everything that we have to offer.
I hope you can hear that, because we're just standing right in front of the Rary Falls, and it's just this epic waterfall. It's amazing. Just straight off the trail here, Lester. This is cool, isn't it?
Yeah, Mitch, this is what a spot, hey? I mean, what's that, like probably 12, 14 metres tall, clean water. I'm just a bit disappointed that you didn't bring your swimmers with you, mate.
I would really like to get in there. It's a bit overcast today, but it's still warm, and we just came out of the forest back there before, And now we're here with the white noise as well. I laid down on the grass. It's just set up. We're getting more and more relaxed and chilled, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think the Arboretum kind of set the tone for the afternoon, and then this just slides us into sleepy man mode. But yeah, we've still got a few Ks to go for the evening, so we better not get too relaxed.
Well, so we're back on the road again, but only a couple K up the road, we found another little swimming hole, if you could call it that. It was a lot of fun. It's like the natural water slide. It was the big rock slide. And we stripped down and went for it, didn't we?
Yeah, I might be regretting the wet chamois in about 5 minutes, but what an experience. That was super cool, yeah.
Tell everyone what it was, because it doesn't sound like that much, but it's probably like 50 meters, I reckon. Big rock slab with all this green sort of, I guess, algae on it. And then what happens?
Yeah, so you start at the top. We were lucky that someone left their blow-up boat behind. So we jump in that and then slide down, and you, like we were saying earlier, you've got no control over anything. So you just got to let it be and surrender. It is what it is.
You didn't want to do it, but now, what are you thinking? Worth it?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm stoked I did it. I mean, yeah, I wasn't so sure, but hey, we conquer our fears, don't we?
I was saying I loved it because it was like the right amount of scary, the right amount of fun. You're just like, oh, here we go. And yeah, it was cool. Big pool at the bottom, so you could splash into that, and yeah, lots of fun. Back on the road. Well, that's the sound of the end of the day, isn't it, guys? Day one done. We've made it to Motu.
Motu, yeah, we're here. We made it in one piece. What a day. Great little jaunt through the beautiful countryside of Aotearoa.
Some of that gravel was pretty bloody good out there. It was, what do you think? So like we were discussing it out there, it was a bit of like, for me, I'm going to sound like I'm really trying to oversell it here, but it really was the perfect amount of elevation without anything brutal in there. Nice rolly climbs, nice descents. That was my opinion. Am I horribly wrong or correct?
No, 100% agree. I was saying to you guys multiple times, actually, the climbs are nice and mellow. Like, there's a lot of gravel around the country in New Zealand where the climbs are like steep and you got to grovel at some point, but we were just kind of cruising. It was good. And I mean, there were climbs. We did 125k and just over 1,300 meters. So it's not nothing, but it was good climbing, nice gravel, good kind of variety of terrain in that. And yeah, what a day on the bike.
You both know this town, Motu, well. I've since found out, since arriving here, it's such a cute little town. It's a shame. They used to have a fantastic hotel here back in the early 19th century, well, in the early 19s. Great hotel. I'm looking apparently where it used to be, across in this paddock over here, apparently a great little bar. Fortunately got pulled down. It was a thriving town back then, but it's not that it isn't now. It's quite a quaint town, but it's very quiet. Let's listen. You can hear a cow in the background.
Faint cow in the background, yeah.
It's really, really cool here. I love it. We're staying in the community house. It's like it's bureau clock. There's we're staying in a really beautiful white weatherboard place. Like as I said, the community house. The school's just up the road. Really cute. Must only have about, 20 to 40 students. But your experience here, Lessa, there's been an event here.
Yeah, so this is halfway through the Motu Challenge, which used to be, for 30 odd years was an iconic multi-sport event. And I remember coming here as like a 14-year-old, and it must have been either 94 or 95, and doing the mountain bike leg for our school team. So it's quite interesting to be back after so many years and see nothing really has changed. It's just as I remember it. So yeah, crazy to be back.
And Motu, and also the ride today. What do you think? Like, to be here. Is it what you imagine when you're putting this route together? And I guess pulling up here today was one of the bigger legs, 125k in the legs. A few stops on the way, so we weren't sort of hightailing it. But towards the end, I could definitely feel the legs. It was enough, and it was a perfect sort of stop.
The gravel on our way down, kind of into Matawai, you're kind of floating. So people are like, what's the gravel like there? It feels like you're floating on the gravel. So you're like kind of switchbacks and little hairpins and stuff. It's amazing. We were flying. So, it's fantastic.
Good night's sleep tonight. We've got a local dropping the dinner down. How cool is that? A roast. And then it's early to bed, I guess. Maybe.
Well, like when in Rome, we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, look. Surrounded by this beautiful ngahere, this beautiful bush and stuff. We got to sit outside here on this picnic table, take it all in. We got Jim Robinson joining us from Motu Trails Trust. He's going to be having a bit of a yak to you. We got a fridge full of beverages, and I think we'll just have a good snooze tonight.
Perfect. On that note, time for me to wet the whistle and maybe have a shower. Kia ora, he mana. Where are we off to today? Day 2.
Day 2, Mitch. It's an early start. We're going from Motu along the Pākehī track, which is awesome, through to Ōpōtiki, and from Ōpōtiki we're riding the Dunes Trail all the way up to Te Kaha.
Well, here we are. Breakfast is just about getting served. How's everyone feeling?
Hunky-dory.
I'm feeling a little bit tired, actually. But we've got a special guest joining us. Jim Robinson's ridden in. Jim, how are you?
I'm real good. Looking forward to a good day, even if it rains.
You've ridden over from your house. How far away is that?
I rode in from the bottom of Pākehī track. I live over at Ohiwa, which is near Ōpōtiki, where we're heading this afternoon.
So, Motu, tell me about the town that we're in. I did a pretty bad sort of explanation of it yesterday, but I was tired. And it was the first time I'd ever been here. And when we arrived here yesterday, we had a bit of a chat outside over a cold beer, of course. And you started telling these great stories about the town. Give us a little bit of a history of what this place, sort of how it came about, and then what it turned into, and then sort of where it is now.
Crank back 100 years ago. 100 years ago, this place was absolutely buzzing. There was 11 sawmills in the area. There was a quarry just up the road. There was a big aspiration to be connecting Gisborne across to Ōpōtiki by train. So the railway was coming forward. Everyone was looking at this as being a big connector across from Ōpōtiki to Gisborne. It never happened. When the main road went through in the late 1920s, early 1930s, Motu basically went off to be a blip on the side. And since then, it's stayed pretty much the same. So what it's like now is pretty much like it was back in the 1930s.
Well, speaking about the hotel, I mentioned that there was a hotel around here, and that was a big part of a bit of a stopover over that point that you mentioned. This is something that you told me last night, not that I've knew this, but the road wasn't quite the way through, the train track wasn't quite the way through. There needed to be a stopover, and that was sort of the central hub here, and that's where things really sort of made it busy.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would happen from about Motu Road was put through in 1914. So what would happen is people would catch the train from Gisborne to Motuhora, which is just down the road from here. They'd get off the train and they'd come here to Motu, and they'd stay at the big hotel, and then they'd catch the service car across the Motu Road to Ōpōtiki. So that was the journey. That was the only option by land. The only option was coastal steamer. So the hotel was really important for about 15 years. Then they put the main road through, and Motu disappeared really off the map.
What's happening in Motu these days? And we mentioned that there was the event here, and that seems like it's not happening now. But we're all here with bikes, and we were joined by 2 other riders last night, rolled in as well. So you're working with the trails. Exactly. Tell me about your job there, but also, I guess, the project that's happening behind getting cyclists through Motu.
So really you have to look back at in 2009, 2010, New Zealand set up Ngāharenga. Back then it was called the New Zealand Cycle Trails. It's now called Ngāharenga Great Rides of New Zealand. So all around New Zealand there are absolutely fabulous, mostly off-road but some on-road cycling options, and they're getting a lot of traction. There's a lot of people riding them. Motu Trails is one of those. So Motu Trails is a great ride of Ngāharenga, and it goes from Opotiki up on over the Motu Road, Pākihi track where we're going, and out to Matawai, and then connects with Reri Falls Trail, which is where you guys have just ridden. So the whole, I guess, the bigger vision is to get people riding from Gisborne to Opotiki or vice versa, and to do shorter rides within that. So to ride just the Dunes Trail or Pākihi track or Motu Road or Reri Falls. And a good number of people are doing it. There are various options of how people are doing that. But yeah, there's a good number of people doing it, and it's all about getting people to visit small areas, stay at small areas, spend money in small areas, just like cycle touring and gravel and bike packing everywhere. Cyclists are really good they're really good economic drivers because they're going relatively slowly and they're dropping money in small communities all over the place.
Well, exactly that. Tell us about where we are now, and this is the community house here, and it's a fantastic location for what we need. It's a little house. We're all bunked in together. We've got a kitchen. It's fantastic. Tell us about this house, a little bit of the history with it, and what the locals think of, I guess, people like us rolling through on our bikes.
One, they love it. So Motu Community House was purchased by the community, I forget, 18 years ago, 20 years ago kind of thing. Purchased by the community and done up by the community. It's a purely non-profit voluntary thing. And all the money from people staying here goes back into doing up this building, which was this is a historic building. It was a post office built in 1924. And it used to be a lot more basic than this. Over the years, as people have stayed here and brought money into it, they've spent and done it up. And that will continue. Motu actually hosts some really good big events. They do a four-wheel drive event. They do horse riding events. There's a shepherdesses event. And they're actually, those events, they bring in hundreds of people into the area, and the cycling is a bit more, I guess, a bit more spread right through the year. But you still there's an event called Kopiko Aotearoa, which is a crossing of the North Island from East Cape across to Cape Egmont, and there are a lot of bike packers doing that. And this is a key place to stay, basically, for bike packing and cycle tourists. And the community loves it. The community is awesome. They're mellow as, flexible as. They'll kind of do stuff to help you out. Yeah, really cool.
And the community, we were sort of throwing numbers around. I was, a few hundred people here. What is it, 300-400? And what is it?
I reckon it's about probably 50. And they're spread out so far. There's farms. And 100 years ago, 2000. So Motu is definitely somewhat more concise than it used to be, but it's a pretty cool place. This place is, massive forest work and conservation work down in the Finray Reserve, which is 5k down the road. There's all kinds of bike packing and gravel riding, obviously. There's hunting and tramping, and this is a real gateway to some absolutely fantastic outdoors experiences. People kayak and raft the Motu River. This is a real gateway to some pretty incredible country.
We're going to have a talk a little bit more about the trails once we get out there, but give us a little bit of a description on what we got to do straight up today and on our way across to Aportiki.
So we've got a grunter of a start. So we've got about a 5 kilometre climb, goes up in a couple of steps, but basically it climbs 350 vertical metres. That takes us to almost 800 vertical metres, and it's all downhill from there. I mean, it's all uphill in terms of experience, but so
famous last words. I love that, all downhill.
So from the top, almost 800 metres, we've got 9 kilometres of gravel road on the Motu Road, and then we turn off onto the Pākehī track. And the Pākehī was built in the early 1900s. There was a real kind of battle for what was going to be the main connecting route, whether it was going to be Motu Road or Pākehī. And they were both built pretty much at the same time, and they both opened pretty much at the same time. And then within 4 or 5 years, there was a big storm that pretty much wiped out Pākehī, and that was the end of Pākehī for 50 years. And then with the rise of recreational hunting and tramping, and then a little bit later mountain biking, Pākehī was reinstated. So from the early 1990s, it became an absolutely epic mountain bike. It was known as an epic mountain bike trip, with as much bike carrying as riding. And then from there, it was a fairly erratic kind of history as storms wiped the track out, and then it was reopened, and the storms wiped the track out and it was reopened. And then the New Zealand Cycle Trail, Ngā Haringa, came along in 2010, and in 2012, Pākehī was reopened. It took a lot of work to get it open, 25 bridges, really erratic, really dynamic terrain. And since then, it's been known as an epic track. That's been quite regularly shut due to weather events, but hopefully we're in a good place at the moment for keeping it open.
I'm looking forward to it. I think everyone here is looking forward to it. Our breakfast is just sitting there waiting for us, so we'll get into that. But lastly, what's tramping?
Tramping, hiking.
Right. Great. I'm glad you cleared that up. Thanks. All right, let's get into it. Well, top of the first climb, I was told it was 5k. I've got 7.5 on my watch. That's 2.5k longer, and we're at a little shelter here, Jim. What's happening here? It says shuttles, and is there trails here? What's the go?
So this is one of the two. From here, it's basically all downhill to the Pākehī track. Not all, but almost all downhill. So a lot of people, when they're doing vehicle drop-offs or when there's a shuttle, they'll actually drop riders off here. So it's one of the start points really for people riding the Pākehī track. We're just shy of the high point, so we're about 750 metres. And
in altitude or to go on the climb?
Oh, in elevation. Oh, yeah. So we've come from 450 to 750. That's why I'm sweating. This shelter, so all the high points of the Motu Road, we've got shelters on. And the thinking there is that, especially when there's a larger group, people are never going to ride up at the same speed. There's always going to be someone who's 2 minutes in front and whatever. And if the weather's bad, you need somewhere to recollect without people freezing. So we've got shelters at all the high points. This is one of them. And this shelter was made possible here by this guy, Garth and his wife, Judy Barfoot. So Garth was one of the key people in Barfoot and Thompson property. And Garth has been this amazing supporter to the trails. He's given us a whole lot of financial support that's really helped to keep the whole thing going.
All right, Jim, what do we got here? This is the start of the Paki track.
This is the start of the Pākehī track, which is 20.3 kilometres of single track. So historically, it's like the Motu road and the Pākehī were developed at pretty much the same time, the early 1900s, or they are linked through early 1900s. And then pretty quickly, the dynamic terrain and volatile weather meant that Pākehī got wiped out and it disappeared off the scene for 50 years. Then in the early from about the 1970s, it got known for tramping and hunting, and from the early 1990s, it became known as an absolutely epic mountain bike ride. Back then, there was as much bike carrying as there was riding, but now it's almost all riding.
It's all sort of just gradual single track downhill, is it?
Yeah, it is. So because it was surveyed as a road initially, and for vehicles and horses back then, it's a very even gradient going down. The first half of it we drop by over 400 meters of elevation, and then we get down to the river and we kind of wiggle along the riverside. So it's a really well-formed track. The main consideration, it has full exposure. So because of the steep terrain, you've got plenty of places where it sidles around places with a significant drop.
What's the upkeep of this on your side of things? What do you have to do to keep this trail sort of rideable?
It's a challenge. So we have it. So this is PCL, Public Conservation Land, but so we're Motu Trails Charitable Trust, and we have an agreement with DOC, and so we do the track maintenance. And there's 3 or 4 of us up here pretty much once a week, or after a storm, more than that. It's very dynamic terrain, so we're up here with hand tools working, clearing stuff, and it's all about doing a little bit often. So because material's moving the whole time, it's about just clearing the track often, not letting it get on top of you.
Right, well, let's get into it. I'm very excited. I'm going to take a photo of the entry of this. It looks very cool. So, Jim, where are we now? This looks like a little, like when you go hiking, a bit of a refuge hut.
Yeah, so we're down at Pākehī Hut. So this is like a 55-year-old hut that had a veranda added when Motu Trails was established, when the Pākehī track got done up. And we're surrounded by hills. It's quite a neat little hideaway from the world.
Do people get up here and stay here? And what is it? The tramps or the trampers? Sorry, the hikers, or is it more the cyclists? Who's staying in the hut up here?
It's a mixture. So you do get hunters. You get quite a lot of people walk in from the bottom end and stay at the hut. There's a lot of families that do that. It's a neat walk for kids, and also the cyclists staying here are mostly bike packers. So they're coming through doing the kōpiko, or they're on some kind of bike packing mission, and yeah, they'll stay here. We're only, from a riding sense, we're only like less than 2 hours from Opotiki, so people on those 1 day or 2 day rides don't tend to stay here, but anyone on a longer mission, it's an awesome place to stay.
Well, Jim, that's the end of, I guess, the single track, isn't it? Now we're back out, we've popped out.
Yeah, so now you have 10 kilometres of gravel road on the Pākehī road, and then sealed road back to town. But yeah, that's the end of the single track. So I hope you enjoyed it.
It was phenomenal. It was so well kept. It was interesting the whole time. That slight gradient the whole way down, so you felt better than probably you were feeling. Well done. Was really impressed. Thanks for taking us out there.
Awesome. Thank you for coming in and experiencing it.
All right, we made it down here to Oportiki. I think I got that right. And we've met Jesse down here. Jesse, great to have you here at the cafe.
Yeah, you too, mate. Good to meet you.
So tell me, Jesse, what are you doing down here?
Oh, so my role with Te Tawhara Te Whakatoia is the biodiversity lead. So I work in the space of just anything to do with the environment. We just got our fingers in it and we're just trying to make a change.
So it's got to do with sort of, I guess, Maori tribes or I guess the iwi, is it?
Yeah. So I'm the lead for the iwi space, and so how it works is Whakatoia has 6 hapu. They're sort of a collective to come together as a iwi, and then obviously roles like mine are created from that.
I've just said the word iwi, but I don't really even know what that even means. What does it mean?
Yeah, it's just the people that sort of whakapapa that belong to that certain area.
Exactly. What are you guys up to?
Yeah, so at the moment, like for us, quite a new space. We've been going for about 3 years. For us, it's just reconnecting the people back to the learnings of the tile, the learnings of the environment, but also at the same time protecting spaces of the environment.
And it's about also educating, I guess, tourists like myself coming through, or is it more about educating sort of the locals here who have lost the original story of what this land was?
Oh, a bit of both, eh? Like, I guess, like for guys like yourself, just coming in and learning a bit of tikanga, learning a bit of, what to do and what not to do, but also for our next generations, to pass a lot of that knowledge on to them so that it's at the forefront of their mind, not sort of at the back.
So on a day-to-day sort of basis, what are you guys doing? How are you getting your hands dirty? Are you getting out there, literally getting in amongst it, or is it more of a political thing?
Oh, no, so I'm really lucky. I get to do heaps of cool stuff. I think last week I dealt with a tohara, a whale that had washed up on the beach, stranded. Just, we got Komata involved, brought them in, just followed tikanga processes sort of thing. And I do a lot of kiwi conservation, so I get to get hands-on with kiwi and stuff like that. Last year, like Jim and them, we did a heap of planting. I'd say it would be one of the bigger plantings of the country. It's pretty up there. We did 40,000 June plants, so a big June restoration with the new harbour in Oportiki, and like man-made dunes, just restoring the whole, I think, 11 hectares of beach that's just been created from the harbour development itself of blocking the old river.
What's the feedback from the residents around here and sort of the exterior people? What are they thinking about what you guys are getting done? We just ridden down the Paki Trail, and for me, I was just like, how do not more people know about this? This is just an amazing trail. Jim did a great job keeping it in store, and he was telling me, only a few thousand people a year are going through there. You want a lot of people to keep coming through. Let's talk about this trail specifically, but you don't want it to get suddenly 20, 30,000 people knowing about this. It's a sort of a weird dynamic. You want to bring more people to show it, but you don't want it to get overpopulated.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and it's quite a hard thing, like on the tipping scale almost, like say if you get 30,000 people through there, where do they shit, where do they piss, like rubbish, all those sort of things come in hand. Plus, then Jim's job makes it 10 times harder because I don't think you get a track maintenance crew like Jim's anywhere else. They do a bloody awesome job. Like even up, so I was there Tuesday last week and his team were on the track and we were doing some endangered plant monitoring, and it's like walking bloody down the main street. You could use your putter down the track if you need it.
It is very nice. It's very easy, and but yet on the same note, you do feel like you're really way out there. Yeah. What have we got looking forward to come for us as we sort of head down on the coast now? It's the first time we're going to hit the beach. You said you were just down on the dune tracks, preparing it as well. Planting. What are we looking forward to down there?
Oh, it's a pretty magnificent coastline. Like especially if you're heading east, it gets pretty beautiful around that way. But everything I could say, you sort of got the bush, a lot of the spaces, especially after the dunes track, it's like the bush right here on your right hand side, and then you got the ocean on the left, and you're kind of just big scenic views the whole way. Jim and them he's probably done a lot more than me. He's been around a lot longer than me. They've had some pretty cool planting projects themselves where, they've done it like 10 years ago, and look at the trees now and you're in the shade. But yeah, I guess it's one of those things you've got to see for yourself. You can't really let someone tell you about it.
Do you get out on the bike yourself?
Oh, nah, sorry. Do a bit of walking.
As we head east and we continue to follow the coast up, I feel like we're going to get a little bit more remote and maybe run into a few more locals and things like that. Is there anything that I should sort of know about the people that I've got coming up and things that we've got to look forward to?
There's some great people there around this area. Like, Jim probably already told you, but the people here are pretty cool people, cruisy people, pretty supportive of most kaupapa. And
What's the project going on right at the moment? What are you up to sort of in the next week or so?
So our biggest project at the moment is we've got another 35,000 plants to go in with the mitigation of the harbour development. So that's just ongoing for the next 3 years, I'd say. And then other spaces we're looking into fuel recovery and maybe a little bit of kiwi recovery sites. With the iwi, we've just gone through settlement, so we're about to get 7,000 hectares in land back. So obviously monitoring and what would you say, management plans to see how we deal with those land blocks.
There's actually kiwi here.
Yeah, so we still have small remnant populations of kiwi in Whakatoa. The Waiwaka Gorge, there's the odd one in the Pākehī still. There's small little populations everywhere in the rohe. It's just whether or not they're getting any predator control or any help to carry on.
There's any chance of me just seeing a wild kiwi while I'm here?
Oh, pretty unlikely. Jim's probably the wildest.
All right, well, let's have a coffee. I'm looking forward to getting down onto the Dune Trail. Thanks a lot. Well, Jim's going to do the handball here. Jim, you got us all the way to the Dune Trail. Who are we handing over to?
So Peter here is the one who looks after the trap line that it runs along the Dunes Trail and is a key part of predator control.
That's trap, as in like animal trapping, isn't it, Peter?
Yes. Yeah. Rodents, to get rid of the rodents. Mainly rats, weasels and stoats.
Rats? There's that many rats out here?
We have a lot of rats and they're very big buggers too. Sorry.
So what's the go with the traps? They're here, I can see them here, wooden boxes. How does it all work?
Inside those wooden boxes, on most of them, there's 2 traps in each one. And we have a rabbit bait in the middle. So when they come in, it's an instant kill. Once they set it off, it's an instant kill and the animal's dead. I have an indicator on the top so I know when a trap's gone off, so I don't have to stop at every trap. And then I just undo it, take the animal out, reset the trap, and right on to the next one.
What do you do with the animal? Just toss it?
We just throw it as far away from the trap as far away from If we're any near houses, I take it with me because there's a couple of places where people live down there. And if it's there, I take the animal with me to a place where there's no people living.
It's something quite common here in New Zealand. You see them actually quite often on the trails. If you're going mountain biking, we saw it on the original start of the Motu trails there. Different styles of traps. It's to get rid of the rodents because why? Why you got all these traps out?
We have a lot of birds that nest on the ground. We've got a lot of wekas, pheasants, quails, and they all nest on the ground. And it's just to protect and help the birds.
Does it work?
It certainly does. I've noticed in the last 2 years our population of bird life has increased rapidly. We have a lot of wekas here now and it's really nice to see.
What does the general public think of the idea of trapping and getting rid of the rodents?
The feedback I'm getting from people, because they see me regularly, congratulate me and thank me for the work I'm doing. And I just do it because I enjoy it and I enjoy the ride.
Let's go. We've swung off the road after doing our little time trial to the death. And Hermione, you actually called it. I think it was a good time to call it. And we swung off. Let's go down the beach, you said. Is so, what's the right word? Just majestic down here. It's just like, I don't know, I'm sort of transported to another place.
Te noa tāhua. In te ao Māori, that means very beautiful. So yeah, we're out there, we're remote, we're kind of untouched, we're in the unkept kind of part of the east coast of Tairāwhiti of Aotearoa.
We're sitting down here on the beach. There's us and I can see looks like a little family just sort of wandering around, or 3 kids. They're in the distance, 500 metres up the road, up the beach. This beach is kilometres long. There's no one here. It's quite surreal, actually. What do you think? The people down here, do they come down the beach as part of their life? What is it?
No, like that. So there's a lot of Māori. Māori, of course, the indigenous population of Aotearoa. There's a lot of Māori in and around this coast. And for Māori, the beach is seen as somewhere to go get kai, go get food. So kai moana, seafood. You go to the beach, you go to get kai, you go to get food, you go to feed your community and your whānau, your family. You don't really go to the beach to kind of laze around and stuff. There are a lot of Māori surfers. So Māori are very good at surfing, but yeah, the beach is kind of like somewhere to come and get kai moana and seafood.
Well, I think we're thinking the same thing. This coast is pretty epic, isn't it, girls?
It's not bad.
Where are you from? Are you in the van? I see you got the surfboards there. You're down pretty remote in the East Coast.
Yeah, we are. We're chasing waves, hopefully, but it's looking kind of flat out there at the moment.
Where are you from?
We're from Byron Bay in Aussie.
But we're living in Gizzy at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
You're living in Gizzy. Right. Okay, nice. And obviously you came down here for the waves. What do you think of it down here so far?
Oh, stunning. Absolutely stunning. We love it.
It would be even more better if the swell came.
We did get word that tomorrow it's going to be pretty crazy. So maybe it's time to just sort of get into the hotel, have a bit of a rest. Look in the back of the van, I see, and wait for the waves tomorrow. Well, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
We've got about 45k to go. We're on the coast road now, heading up towards Te Kaha, where we will be staying tonight. Well, boys, actually it was somewhat of a solid day in the end. We're here in Te Kaha, the end of our very, I guess, all-in day. We started in Motu. We headed up the beautiful gravel climb, and then we headed down the single track of Pakahi trails.
There you go. That's the one, brother.
Which was amazing, and then down into Opotiki, and then along the dune trails. That one's easy for me to say. And then here we are along the coast. It was just everything in it. I want to ask you guys your highs and lows of today, because it was a long day. Yes, we did 125k, but we stopped along and we chatted to lots of different people. We chatted to Jesse there as well. We obviously had Jim along the way, and it was also Peter on the dune trails. And then we just got into it and just sort of swapped off and tried to kill each other. But ultimately, we're just trying to get here. So, give me your highs and lows. What's your highs?
Highs. Kind of following Jim from Motu Trails on the Pākahi. I was saying to Lester before, I was like, man, imagine if we if we were riding bikes that didn't have bags, you could cane through there, because that whole place is so meticulously kept by Jim and his crew. It's almost like every day someone swept it, like you could cane through it. The lows, probably going from that gravel fun section onto the road and heads down, bums up, just like that kind of, the not the shock, but like the transition from going to gravel to road, and then like, oh, let's go, like start up the engine. Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon high for me was probably, there was two really. I enjoyed the Pākahi Trail, and like H said, you could really have some fun down there, even on a gravel bike. That was sick. And then when we stopped partway along the road at the beach there, like serene spot, no one around, very kind of uniquely New Zealand for a number of reasons. But yeah, pretty cool to be a tourist in your own country, really. Yeah, pretty unique area.
And your low?
Low for me... I did feel like the road section dragged out because we'd had a big day of shooting and yarning to people. So the road almost felt like you'd get over one brow and then there'd be another whole section of road like unfolding in front of you, and it was like the never ending story. But we got there, and I mean, if you were to come and ride it on your own or whatever, you wouldn't get that experience because you wouldn't be stopping to take photos here and there and, you know, taking an 8-hour day to do it. But great day. What a variety of experience through the day, epic.
It's going to be hard to go past the Pakahi trail. That was a real highlight, but I'm going to link mine up with the Dune Trail. I love that too. And I love being on there with Jim and Peter. They were great. They just brought a great energy, and the work that they do and explaining why this is how it is made me appreciate a trail. Like the Dune Trail itself was a great trail, but I think if I just ridden on my own without understanding how it's there, I don't think I would have loved it as much. I really loved the trails and those guys. And look, for me, the low was actually leaving those guys and saying goodbye to them. I don't know if I'll ever run into them again. And great guys, really good. And, you know, Jim was just such a great guy. And then we sort of trekked on our own. I think that was sort of the transition of the day. There was sort of a really cruisy mode with them and Jim, and talking about it and sort of pulling up and looking at traps and whatever. And then we just sort of got to business. So, but I guess the second little high was we missed the rain, and it's raining now. And we are safely inside with a packet of chips.
I was about to say a high is that we're on a cliffside palatial resort in Te Kaha. So last night we were at Motu Community House. It's like a grassroots community house. Tonight we're at like some super ritzy resort in the middle of nowhere and stuff. So yeah,
with a Gisborne Green, my new favourite beer. Beautiful, boys. On to tomorrow. Time to recover. Well, day 2 done. What an adventure. It's been a great trip so far, but there's heaps more to come. We've broken this episode up into 2 for you guys because there's too much to put out at once. So look, hang in. There's another episode coming for you in a couple of days. Sit back, absorb what you've heard, and get yourself ready for part 2. We're on to day 3. Tune in, coming to you this Friday. That iconic music in this episode was composed by none other than the legend, Pete Shelley. Cheers, mate.